Welcome to r/Maliciouscompliance, where you get exactly what you asked for. Our next Reddit post is from Ben Hollow. I worked at a gas station during COVID. It was terrible for a lot of reasons, so I searched for better jobs. I eventually found and interviewed one on Friday, and I got a job offer on the spot. I was scheduled to start Monday, which also happened to be my next gas station shift. Immediately after the interview, I called my gas station manager to tell them about the job offer. Without even asking what I called for, the manager began saying things like, "The floor wasn't clean enough, such and such wasn't stocked, as well as XYZ. When I eventually got a word in, I told him, "There's actually something I wanted to talk to you about." And the manager replied, "Well, can it wait until Monday?" At this point, I was so utterly done with that job that I told the manager, "Yes, it can wait until Monday." When Monday came along, I showed up at the gas station well before my scheduled shift to turn in my key before starting my other job. When the manager saw me there early, he knew something was up and came outside to meet me. I told them about the new job and asked if the gas station could increase my wage to match. The manager told me, "You know I can't do that." And I said, "Okay, then I'm gonna take the other job," before handing over my key. My manager asked, "Why'd you wait until now to tell me?" And I replied, "Because you asked me to." The manager didn't say another word to me, but after a pause, let out a long groan. Then I got in my car and never looked back. Our next Reddit post is from I Aim to Sneeze. When I was little, my mom sent me to a private religious school. My family isn't religious, but they felt like I would get a better education there. The school had uniforms. Boys wore button-down shirts with the school logo and blue slacks. The girls wore jumpers. My mom hated cleaning and ironing these white button-down shirts every day. I was one of 4 kids. Kids play and get grass stains. These shirts were taking up a lot of her time. Finally, she gave up and bought a bunch of white polo shirts and started sending us to school in those. Administration had a conniption fit about it and brought her in for a meeting. They opened the dress code rulebook and pointed out that these shirts were missing the logo, so they were in violation. My mom looked over the rules and confirmed that the lack of a logo was the only violation. They said yeah. She thanked them and left, and the school probably thought that was over. Just to be petty, the administration sent out a school-wide memo regarding the dress code. My mom took every polo shirt and stitched a homemade school logo onto them. It wasn't hard to do, as the logo was just the school's initials. Administration was furious, but during the next meeting, they realized their hands were tied. The memo piqued the curiosity of the other parents, and they started asking my mom where she got the new school shirts. Apparently, she wasn't the only one sick of ironing and getting grass stains out. Suddenly, I wasn't the only student wearing a polo shirt to school. The worst part for the school was that, despite tuition being pretty expensive, they also had a kickback deal going on with a local clothing store for the uniforms. That store had a monopoly on the sale of those shirts. When business started lagging, that store made their own version of the polos for sale. Eventually, the original shirts were phased out entirely. That was over 30 years ago, and my mom still loves telling that story. I remember my mom told me that when she was little, every time they did a fire drill, they always taught that the girls leave the building first and the boys leave the building second. My first thought was, oh, how noble, women and children first. But no, they used that policy because if the boys went down before the girls, they would stand underneath the stairs and look up all the girls' skirts, because back then, everyone wore skirts. Our next Reddit post is from Big91. My son's school, for the 100th day of school, asked for the kids to bring in 100 of the same coin. They're going to donate the money to a local food pantry, so it's for a good cause. And we were doing pretty good this month, so I decided to give him 100 quarters, which is $25 to donate. So during lunch, I head to my bank and go in. I'm directed to one of the windows, and I tell the nice lady I need to withdraw $25 in quarters. She says, okay, and goes to get my quarters. She comes back with 3 rolls of quarters. She says, I can only do $20 or $30. They only come in rolls of $10. I point out that she has a tray of change and ask, can you take $5 from the loose change? No, they only come in rolls of 10. Do you want $20 or $30? Okay, I really need the 25, so I ask for the 30. She goes to process my request in the computer at another window and comes back with 3 rolls of quarters. I then tell her, can I go ahead and make a deposit? Of course. How much do you want to deposit? $5 in quarters. The range of emotions that crossed her face as I broke open one of the rolls and began to count out my $5 in quarters was priceless. She then takes it and tells the guy at the other computer that we needed to deposit $5 in quarters back into my account. He asked her what happened, and she told him that I asked for $25, but the rolls only came in $10. He then asked her why she didn't just count out $5 in quarters from the loose change that's on each desk. I just smiled as I waited for my deposit receipt. Down in the comments, we have this story from The World Is Not Okay. My mom once did something similar. She was an accountant, and my brothers and I knew nothing about finance. So we all had her co-signed on all of our accounts when we were in high school and college, so she could do her magic as necessary to make sure we all had enough money to get by. So one day, she goes up to a teller and says she wants to transfer some money from my checking account to my brother's checking account. Sorry, ma'am, but you can't do that. Sure I can. I'm co-signed on both accounts. Well, yeah, but you can't transfer money from Bill's account to Ted's account. But my name is on both accounts. Well, yeah, but you're not the primary on the accounts. Okay, fine. Can I withdraw some money from one of the accounts, please? Of course, since you're co-signed, you can do that. Great, then I'd like to withdraw such and such money from Bill's account. Okay, there you go. Thanks. Now I'd like to deposit this much money into Ted's account. Oh, that was dumb, wasn't it? Yeah, I kinda thought so. Our next Reddit post is from Party Shape. I used to work in media intelligence, which is a really niche market in the country that I'm from. I started as an assistant and learned everything from scratch as I switched from the hospitality industry. Pretty big step, I know. I was eager to learn and was really interested in what they do as I was trying to get into media back then. First of all, since I learned everything from scratch, I got really good at what I do after just 6 months working there. I was in a 3-person team, and I had one of the best bosses and a really good colleague, which were veterans in the industry. Both of them helped me a lot to get to where I was. They left the company after just a year there, as upper management was just plain hot garbage. The company had 4 changes in direction within a year, and it was stressing my team out. They did ask me to leave with them, but with me being young and naive trying to prove myself, I declined. So after my boss and colleague left, it was just me and my team, and I was in charge of a few markets. I was asked to be on call for technical support, and wasn't offered anything in return. At the time, I was pissed, but also trying to prove myself, so I obliged. I got really stressed out from working 13 hours a day for a few months at that point, and I kept asking my manager to hire more people as I can't be working like this, and it's stressing me out. My manager went on and on saying they don't have the budget for it, so I just forgot about it, drowning myself in work. One day, the CEO of the company came, and we had dinner as he was growing close to me since I was one of the only people left who actually knew the ins and outs of the old and new system that the company used. Keep in mind, this CEO is a cheapskate and will try anything to suck you dry. He asked me what I wanted to change in the company during dinner, so I started off asking for 2 new hires for my team, where he gave me the same answer as my manager. So I asked him for a promotion and a raise, which he also declined, saying, "You don't have the necessary experience yet." I was pissed. As a normal person would expect, after working 13-hour days for months, you would need rest. I had almost 3 weeks of paid time off saved, and I needed the rest. The manager threatened to fire me if I took any paid time off, as no one was able to do what I did. I took the paid time off anyways. I got well rested and was all good until I came back. There were 2 new faces, and I was pretty confused, so I asked my manager who they were. And she told me they were my replacements. She told me that I had a 2-month notice and I had to train them before I leave. She couldn't do anything to me, as I was the only one in the company who knew how to run the legacy systems and the new systems. So realistically, she couldn't say that I wasn't training them properly because she didn't know how these things worked. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. She told me to train the interns on the legacy systems to help them understand how the company was built, and I did just that. She told me strictly to just train the interns on the legacy and she'll deal with the rest. Sure, I'll do just that. It wasn't until my last week when things really hit the fan. My manager found out that I've been only training them on the legacy system, and I didn't give them my notes with tips on how to run the new system that needed to be used for daily operations. My manager called in the CEO and the managing director to hold a meeting with me, asking me why I hadn't trained my replacements properly. I just told them that I did what my manager told me, to which the manager denied, so I forwarded them the email that the manager sent me. After I left the company, I was patiently waiting for the call that was bound to come. It was my manager. She demanded I get back to work and said that the firing was just a prank, blah blah blah. I told them, pay me triple my wage and I'll consider it. They called me crazy and ended the call. It's been 2 months since that call, and based on info from a good friend from another department, my old manager is up to her neck in this shit show. So, you want to fire me for taking paid time off? Go screw yourself. Sometimes I read these stories and I just don't understand how anyone can be this dumb. You have one employee that is basically single-handedly holding up the entire company. So, you fire him and piss him off before you tell him to train the new employees? It's like you're helping the employees screw your company over. What a bunch of doofuses. Our next Reddit post is from Doc Hank. I'm an emergency physician. I work in emergency departments in hospitals. It's an interesting specialty in medicine. I have different patients every day. Now, especially in the wintertime, the emergency department is full of people with usually long wait times, and we take people in order of severity, not first come, first served. So I'm at work and get a new patient. The chart says, needs a work note. I go into the cubicle and see a patient that is obviously ill. After 40 years of experience, I can size patients up pretty well from across the room. This woman was ill. Vitals were not good. Fever of 102 degrees Fahrenheit, the works. The monitor shows that her heart is okay, her pulse is a little high, her BP is a little low, high fever. I'm talking to her and she tells me she's got a cold. Now, I tend to appreciate it when patients just tell me the truth. She didn't claim to have COVID, pneumonia, anthrax, or anything, but a cold. Which, being a virus, there's not a hell of a lot I can do for her, so I ask why she came in. Turns out she's been ill for 2 days. Her fever is actually down with her taking Tylenol and drinking fluids. No kidding. And her employer wants a doctor's note for more paid time off. This woman waited in the emergency department waiting room for 5.5 hours to get a stupid note for work? Not her fault though. It's her employer's fault. So I ask her how much time they'll give her paid time off. There's no limit, she said. I just need a doctor saying I need it. Got it. So she went home with a lovely note giving her 2 weeks off with pay, and instructions to return for additional time if she needs it to recover. I really hate employers that demand asinine notes like this. Fight the stupidity. Our next Reddit post is from Prestigious Store. I'm a 45-year-old guy, and I used to be a military driver in the Dutch Navy a long time ago, and at some point I was stationed at a little Navy base meant for physical rehabilitation of Navy personnel. With little, I mean a base with less than a few hundred people. My function was to drive patients to the military hospital, to drive groups of people to the swimming pool, etc. When I was at home on the weekends, I would do my workout at my regular gym, but on work days, when finished with my work, I would train in a small gym on site where I was stationed, because I would stay on base during the week. I was about 21 years old, and I was preparing for my very first bodybuilding contest, so I was muscular and worked out a lot. At some point, the gym manager, a Marine sergeant, told me that somebody at upper management was offended by my looks, and that I was no longer allowed to wear a tank top during my workout. My tank top was wide-fitting and purely functional, and seemingly nobody was ever bothered by me wearing it. At least, that's what I thought. I argued with him about how unfair I thought that was, and pointed towards a fellow gym-goer who was also wearing a tank top. And I asked the sergeant why this guy wasn't told to not wear a tank top during his workout. The other guy was athletic and in fair shape, but not bulky and muscular. The sergeant, who got along with me very well, agreed with me, but told me that the officers in charge ordered him to just tell me. And orders are orders. He agreed with me though, but the higher-ups had already decided, so he felt that he didn't have a choice. At that point, I just took my loss and finished my workout. The next day, I found the perfect solution and took one of the shirts that we got in our PSU, which roughly translates to Personal Standardized Gear. The shirt was a stretchy, slim-fitted white shirt, so I decided to wear that for my next workout. When I arrived to the gym, the sergeant shook his head and told me that this was not what the officers in charge would appreciate. So I told him that this is what the Navy gave me, so it can't be wrong. At this point, my body was much more on display compared to the tank top. The tight fit showed everything, especially when I was sweating. I was fully compliant with the dress code, and nobody would be able to dispute that. The sergeant laughed because he knew I was right, but told me the officers probably would be pissed. I kept doing my workout like this during that week, and after the weekend, the sergeant told me with a smile that higher-ups retracted their order and to please start wearing my tank top again. That was r/Maliciouscompliance, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.